Okay, so this is so much fun to teach and expose you guys to this because kids yoga is just absolutely one of my favorites, and not only in the fact that I love it, but also that it's such a nice playful way to see how yoga can be adapted for different ages. It's just one of many different ways in which we can make yoga accessible. So making it available to children. I don't know if someone's mentioned it before. I haven't actually, and I forgot to mention it in the chat yesterday when we spoke about other styles, but things like chair yoga, and you get something called accessible yoga, which a friend of mine teaches in Johannesburg. There's two teachers in Johannesburg who are both occupational therapists. That's yoga for persons with disabilities, so students who are in a wheelchair and how they adapt yoga for them. So it's just so exciting to see that so many different modalities or different ways of teaching this practice are made available. So as a bit of a show of hands, just to gauge some interest, who is kind of interested in kids yoga, maybe curious, maybe wants to explore this a bit? We had a couple of hands with the Preggy yoga yesterday, so I anticipate that they kind of go hand in hand. You know, it's kind of like that. Beautiful. We've got lots of hands up there. Okay, so I've got a big shoes to fill then if we have a lot of future kiddies yoga teachers on the cards. So as I mentioned yesterday, you don't need to do an additional training once you guys have qualified as 200-hour teachers in order to teach kiddies yoga. That being said, sorry, there's lots of noise outside. That being said, there are additional tools and activities and games that are made available in a kids yoga training. I mean, you can do your own self-study, as we mentioned yesterday, that will actually just add to your toolbox of things to get off to offer. Because our kids yoga is kind of, once again, the intention is very different. The way in which we present it is different. It's not as strict in the sense of alignment and where our body needs to be in poses. There's a lot more fluidity and fun. So in that, yoga almost combines with mindfulness, with creativity, with general movement in order to create a more holistic offering for that. So I love it. It's really, really exciting. There are so many incredible resources, like a lot of kids yoga books. A friend of mine has a company, a yoga brand in Durban called Yogi Bears. She's got a couple of extra props, like a little mindfulness calendar, affirmation cards, little essential oil sprays. And then there's also like a company called Magic Mat, where they make mats specifically for kids, and books. And so more of these kind of things are becoming available, because with kids yoga, you really need to be fun and creative to keep children engaged, and you use props a lot. So I haven't based what we're going to do today on props because we don't have them, and usually the teacher will provide it. So I would bring blocks, I'd bring a dice or cards or something that would make it more engaging, more fun, and more interactive for children. So if we just go a little bit over the theory of kids yoga specifically, so starting off with looking at what kids yoga is really. And so as we've explained, it's not so much focused on the poses. Yes, we do perform poses, but there's less focus on alignment, less focus on what a pose should look like, and rather the experience of a pose. So instead of sequencing or teaching it in that way, you make use of themes and storytelling. And anytime that we use storytelling, it's more beneficial because we get to keep the child engaged. If you say, come to a warrior two, that is not as fun as being a surfer on a surfboard. Like, that's pretty obvious. And so you bring in the imagination a lot. So your role as a teacher shifts when you kind of have to step out of a teacher's role and into a childlike state. So we start to create an environment where we are children with the children. So that's kind of a fun thing for you guys to experience, and it'll be kind of a test today, not so much a test, but for you guys to see how easy it is to let go and just be silly and fun and playful, because you do kind of have to leave the seriousness at the door when you start to play around with kids. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. If we think about why kids yoga is so important, I think it's kind of obvious to us to understand that lives are getting busier for everyone. And just as us as adults, lives become busier for us, we start to explore different forms of coping mechanisms for us. And yoga might be one of those. It's a place where we find calm, relaxation, connection to body. And so if it's been so beneficial to us and we understand the we come to yoga because we love it so much. Surely we want to make that offering available to children as well. And what I particularly love about kids yoga compared to any other extracurriculars is that there's a couple of things that set it apart. The first one being that it's non-competitive and non-judgmental. So it's not about, and children will naturally make things competitive to be like, oh, can you see I held my tree the longest, or I got here first, and that's fine. But no one gets a reward for having the best tree pose, for example. And it's okay if children don't necessarily feel that they are the most sporty or the most competitive. So it's another type of movement for children who don't feel like they want to be, maybe not resonating with team sports or any other competition. So with our yoga space or yoga studio, we try to cultivate for children, particularly that space of non-judgment. Doesn't matter if your pose looks different. It doesn't matter if you can't do it. We're all working towards it. And so just like we would do in an adult yoga class, we encourage to do the same. It's about the process, it's about having fun, learning skills on your mat. And that is kind of the whole focus of it. Although it's not a competitive sport as such, it still has a lot of the same physical benefits of it. So when we look at children's yoga, we think very largely about the normal development of a child, particularly with regards to what kind of development they are achieving or the milestones that they are achieving at that age. Because your kids yoga will vary from 3 years to 12 years, there's a lot of different things happening during that time. So when they are quite young, you are going to be incorporating poses that help them become aware of their body. And sometimes, particularly around the ages of like, let's think about grade R. I think when you do teach kids yoga, you kind of start to understand what's going on at a certain point in their life. But let's say around grade R time, where they're starting to learn lefts and rights, yoga uses a lot of lefts and rights. We're starting to learn about coordinating the left and right side of our body. We're starting to learn how to follow instructions and mimic the teacher. All of those developmental skills are almost naturally incorporated into a yoga environment. All right. So there's kind of, it already includes a lot of the things we want children to be exposed to. Other than other sports like gymnastics, it is also one of the only sports or one of the only movement activities that does a lot of weight bearing on their arms. So things like holding plank, downward dog, those kind of things are really nice to get some upper body involved. So that's one of the things I love most about kids yoga. And the biggest thing is that it teaches us so much about our body. We speak about body awareness in adults, and we think about the first time we come to a yoga class and we feel like, where's my arm, where's my leg, how am I supposed to get my foot there? So if we can imagine how us as adults figured out our body, imagine that impact for children. Like, how incredible is that? So I'm going to take a step all the way back, and I'm going to look at the components of a kids yoga class, how we would stream it all together, and then we'll do a little bit of a fun bit. Okay, so like I mentioned, if you're curious about kids yoga, one of the first things I would recommend is to get a bit of understanding. Once again, it is a very basic understanding of the age group of children and what is expected in the time, in the sense of choosing classes that are age appropriate. Okay, so what I like to do is categorize children according to their schooling, because you're not going to be like 3-year-olds. We'll categorize them to preschool ages, which is about 3 to 5. Then you got primary, which is 6 to 9. Then you got that pre-teen phase, 10 to 13. And then teenagers, if you wanted to do teen yoga, whole different ball game that comes over that. So we tend to kind of categorize children according to preschool, primary school, well, kind of like primary phase, and then secondary phase. And in every single one of those sections, there is certain development happening that is physical, mental, emotional, intellectual. We want to kind of target all of those things. So when we look at the development of children, we also understand what's happening on a gross motor level, a fine motor level, and a sensory level. All right. So that's what I'm going to start with. And it kind of feels like a big task to kind of wrap this into an hour, But the reason why I wanted to give you guys some theory is because I think if you can understand that, that might make it more fun and interesting for you. So when children are born, let's not even say when they're born, let's just jump straight to like 3-year-old phase. Children are very exploratory, all right? They're learning to make sense of their environment. They're starting to understand sensations, being sound, hearing, touch. What do I see? What do I taste? All of this information is coming into their environment. And this is it's kind of like all the sensory input comes into their brain, and their brain is starting to learn to make sense of this. All right. How am I perceiving this information? And the more that I get exposed to certain sensations, and the more that I kind of put myself in those environments where I am learning or receiving, I can then learn and decide how I want to respond to certain situations. So there's information coming in from our environment, I'm making sense of it, and then I'm responding, whether it be in the form of a behavior or an action, okay? So when we think about sensory input, we think about our 5 main senses. We think about hearing, sight, touch, smell, and taste. Did I miss one there? Okay. Yes, so all 5, those are the typical ones we know. But there are, in fact, 8 senses of the body. Did anyone know there's 8? I had on that. Okay, cool. Cool lesson of the day. There's actually 8 senses. So the first 5 we actually know pretty well. The 6th one, and these are things that they don't only apply to kids, it's relevant to adults too, but it becomes quite prominent in children's yoga is because they're still in that point where they're growing and figuring stuff out. So the 6th one is proprioception. That's a word we know. Okay. So proprioception. Proprioceptors are kind of situated in your sensory receptors in the muscle and joints that tell our brain where our body is in space. So proprioception is what happens, or is kind of the system that comes into play when I'm putting my arm out to the side and I close my eyes and I say, do the same thing with your left arm. My body knows that my arm is here, even though I can't see it. It's your internal awareness of your body. So that understanding that we spoke about body awareness, that's proprioception, okay? When it relates to yoga, we have so much proprioception in our body. And it's particularly when we start doing like weight bearing things. When I'm doing plank and down dog, I can feel the weight of my arms. And then my brain goes, oh, okay, I can feel that's where my arm is. My hand is underneath my shoulder, or my arm's up above my head. And in yoga, we almost commentate about that. Arms up overhead, we give words to body movements. And so we start to kind of build those pathways of understanding. So that's proprioception. It's if I had a favorite sense, it would be that. The 7th one is our vestibular system. Does that sound familiar to you guys? Okay, so vestibular system is your movement sensor. So you have receptors in your inner ear. So that's the system that comes into play when you are on a merry-go-round or on a swing or on a roller coaster. And what happens in these receptors is it kind of detects the movement of our head in space. And it tells our brain, okay, we are now inverted, we are rotating, we are moving, we are standing still. And that's probably one of the reasons why children really benefit from playing in the playground, because we get to bring in all the gross motor skills, but there's also a lot of movement. So I can understand I am now upside down, I'm right side up, and I'm moving or I'm being still. So in yoga, inversions, we're changing head positions, we're balancing, we're getting all of these movements involved. So we're also working on that. And then the last one, the 8th sense, which is not one that's often spoken about. It's not a major thing, but it's called interoception. And I was actually thinking about this the other day because I think it's one of the only extracurricular activities that really hone in on that. And that's the awareness of the internal bodily system. So it is actually things like, I am now hungry, I need to go to the bathroom, but it's also things like, I'm aware of my breath, I'm aware of my heartbeat. And yoga is always bringing awareness to your breath and your heart rate. So it's that busy, I'm moving, I'm having fun, but then I can pause and I can notice what's going on the inside. Because one of the most powerful things we can teach to children is that they are in control of their body. This is their body. They have the superpower to slow down their breath, to slow down their heart rate, and they can always rely on that tool when they are feeling angry, frustrated, irritated, tired. I mean, that's what we do as adults, but now we just make those coping mechanisms more age appropriate for little ones. All right, so does that make sense? Kind of just basing all on that. So I always find that the more sensory we can make it for children, the more fun and engaging it is, which is why we do things like we might do music, we might have instruments, we can switch off the music, and then we might play a game where we have to touch things, like we might put cream on or essential oil spray. So those types of props actually engage our senses, and if we can engage our senses, we can be more focused and we can learn. Okay, so that's like your little take home for the day. So that's something that I think quite interesting about yoga, and naturally yoga incorporates, or kiddies yoga incorporates, physical postures. So we know that we get to work on our gross motor skills, our movement of our body. And there's so many different gross motor skills that we incorporate with children. It's muscle strength, it's balance. Children start learning things like doing things with their left and their right, and then coordinating their lefts and the right. Have you guys done yoga before, where you've got to like twist to the side of your mat and your brain can't figure out how am I supposed to get there, and you've kind of got to plan it and then execute the movement, and it doesn't work out. And that's exactly what kids get to do all the time. And the yoga environment is where we're already doing fun shapes and body movements in an exciting way, that we are almost working on these different body movements. And then when they go out into class and into schooling, they've had a chance to practice certain things, even if it's star jumps or marching. You know, it's kind of woven into the yoga environment as well. And that's kind of on the physical thing. I mean, we know balance is a big thing. Learning to coordinate your body, learning how to coordinate your body in relation to others, if you're doing things like partner poses, or you're just playing activities where they need to be aware of how they move in space, just your body awareness, which is a fun thing. And then lastly, not on the physical side, we looked at the sensory, the physical, and then we also get like social emotional. So those are skills like turn taking, patience, non-judgment, kindness, compassion, gratitude, mindfulness. All of those aspects can be woven into a class. So I find that you can really run quite wild with it. You can teach yoga classes that are, or kiddies yoga classes that are just focusing on physical postures. You can also do one that's focused on gratitude and being kind. You can also focus on ones that are about your breath and how you can use your breath to calm when you are just about to write a test, or when you're just about to say a speech, because that's making it relevant. It's making it, it's teaching children skills that they can go home with, but always bringing it back to yoga, poses, movement, meditation, and breath work. Did that feel like a lot of information? I feel like it's quite a lot of information. Yes, Eva, just grabbing my water.
I may have missed this, but I was going to ask, how old do the kids that you teach the kids yoga to usually are, or how early can you start? And I was going to say that I have a friend whose daughter goes to New York City's public school, and actually there are areas in New York City that have put yoga into their classes. So they do an hour of yoga every day, or half an hour of yoga, and she said that her daughter has gotten so much better because she knows how to calm herself down better. Like, it's just pretty much helped her. And she's 5 years old. I think they started when she was 4. So I think there's a lot of benefits to it. I just want to know how young or how early can you start teaching them to be yogis?
That's amazing, amazing, amazing. I think America's obviously quite like leaps and bounds ahead of us, but there are a lot of schools. I was just chatting to a friend of mine in Cape Town who she's also an occupational therapist and was teaching yoga at a school, and they have 7 like franchise schools, and they're now expanding yoga into their curriculum next year, which is just incredible. And I think it's not I don't think yoga necessarily replaces any other extracurriculars. I think there's a space for dance, swimming. I think team sports, you know, wonderful, play ball because of the hand-eye coordination. I think everything's wonderful, but I think yoga brings something a little bit different in its connection to body and breath. With regards to how young children can start, I think my general rule of thumb is actually as soon as a child can kind of detach from their parents. So because we want yoga to be a safe space for kids to feel comfortable and feel like they want to do yoga, as soon as they feel like they're ready for that, which is generally between 3 to 4. A friend of mine who teaches kids yoga quite often would say that if a child was coming in and the mom would say, no, you must do yoga, and the child's kicking and screaming and crying, she doesn't want her to come to the yoga class because that's not going to be beneficial for her either. So if a child obviously can't detach in the sense that they holding onto mom's leg and teary, maybe it's not the best thing. But sometimes that's why when weaving it in a preschool, when they're already at another environment, is fine. Because when you come into a yoga studio, new environment, new person, leaving mom, I mean, that's enough to invoke a little bit of fear in a little human. So it really depends, but probably around 3 to 4. I've had a 3-year-old in a yoga class, and guys, it was just the cutest thing, because obviously left and right concept is not a thing, and he was just doing his own thing, but he was like he was just absolutely adorable. It was actually at a yoga festival where you have someone as young as 3 years and someone as old as 14 years in one class, which is what I would not recommend, because not only do you present different activities, you want to keep everyone as challenged, but also the language that you use with a 3-year-old is very different to a 14-year-old. So that's why you try to break them up into groups. And because even according to the ages, Eva, it's like your classes for 3 to 5-year-olds are probably not going to be much longer than like 25 minutes being of like pure yoga until you need to maintain that attention all the time. So if you can understand normal development, you will also start to see, okay, you know, children around this age, attention span is usually around 10 to 15 minutes on something that they like really, really enjoy. And then you can focus in on that, knowing that you will always have to bring something new to the table. You have to always keep them engaged. You have to use language, and you can't even do too much like sitting in meditation for so long. So even when it's like meditation for 5-year-old, I do 5 minutes. For 6-year-old, I do 6 minutes. And that includes the time into meditation, staying and coming out, so that they can rather get 20 minutes of like good yoga where they're fully engaged rather than like all over the place for an hour. But then you can work your way up. So as soon as the children start going to school at the age of like let's say 6 or 7 from grade 1, they are now starting to become more used to maintaining or sustaining attention for a certain amount of time at a desk. And so we know we can demand a little bit from them. We can then start bringing in some journaling, you know, writing or drawing or fine motor skills, which is more like your finger movements, into the activities, where with the younger ages, it's very physical. You're doing a lot with your body. You're not going to expect a 3-year-old to journal, right? Because they're not going to say anything. The same reason as you wouldn't expect a 14-year-old to necessarily want to pretend to be a mermaid. You know, they might want to do something a little bit more grown up. They like want to do the real thing. So there's so many different examples I could give you, and I don't think we have enough time to go into each one, but you start to say, okay, around the preschool age, what's happening? They're very exploratory. It's very imaginative. We can do a whole class around a theme of the jungle. And we use the story to tell them to maybe incorporate a lesson, to incorporate song and dance. And we also bring in poses of animals that link to the storytelling. So it always comes back to the story, because that's kind of the idea that they latch onto and run with. And we also have to remember that mindfulness and meditation looks different in children, all right? So when parents come and say, for example, like, oh, my child, they can't sit still, they you know, if they don't keep quiet, you must just tell them they must sit and keep quiet. And so I often have to say, well, a kids yoga class is not quiet, and it's also not very relaxing for some. So you guys might find if you ever teach classes, like you're exhausted after, you just wish you could just get them into meditation for 10 minutes, but it's not going to happen. So it is often not so much noisy and chaotic, but there's a lot of fun and there's a lot of doing and not a lot of stillness. Children also find meditation in things like drawing, in singing, in dancing, anything that you are fully in that moment. You know, children, I think, do it really well because they're not like getting pulled by to-do lists and what happened yesterday and what's happening tomorrow. Anything that keeps them in the here and now is a mindfulness activity for them. So that's like, yeah, that's always the best. So as much as you're teaching children and you're getting them involved, there's probably a little bit that you'll also need to incorporate with regards to educating parents what kids yoga is about and what kids yoga looks like. We don't often, my recommendation, if you ever teach it, if you don't end up doing another training after this, is to not often get parents to sit in on classes, for the reason being that a child with mom watching is very different than a child without mom watching. Obviously, it just, they get to just relax. It's not like anyone's peeking on me, or I'm not going to get in trouble if I don't listen, or, you know, any of those kind of boundaries that children have at school, at home, where it is important that they have structures. You know, children need to be told this is what you can do, this is what you can't do in those environments. A kids yoga class, we can, you know, relax that a bit. We can let children find their own voice, learn to, you know, speak up, feel confident. Also trial and error, you know, it's kind of like a safe space for them to be who they want to be without being told no, or you can't do this, or it's wrong. So it's hard because as us as adults, we like jump into that role so quickly and we have to stop and go, it's fine. It's okay. Didn't go to plan, but everything's happy. So yeah. Any questions at this point, just with regards to kind of like the components of kids yoga? No. Okay. So that was just pretty much to show you an overview of, you'll bring in physical things, you'll bring in some sensory, some mindfulness, a little bit of emotional skills. You might bring in some mental things like problem solving. All can be woven into a yoga class. Just because it's not a traditional yoga move doesn't mean it can't be incorporated. So you start to open it up a bit and look at more activities. All right. So now I'm going to, just as an example, give you guys some fun things that would be in a yoga class. So you are looking at around 20 to 40 minutes or 45 minutes, depending on the age group. Let's say from 3-year-old to 12-year-old. And when children come into the class, there's a lot of, most of the time, there's a lot of energy, especially when they're seeing their friends. They're coming with a lot of excitement. And so what you want to introduce from there is something like a little grounding state. It's a moment where we leave the day that has passed and we're now just centering in our yoga space, just like we would start in seated, a couple of breaths. It's kind of like your changing state. From there, we get into a warm-up. And this wording is sounding very similar to your sequencing, but warm-up doesn't necessarily mean like cat-cow. It means we might be running up and down. We might do star jumps, because children sit with a lot of energy that we need to utilize that as well. So we want to get their whole body involved. If we can wake up the body, if we can make them aware of their hands and their toes and shake their head and get upside down, we can bring in more body movement. We just start to wake up those senses. So you might do something fun. It could be things like marching, star jumps. Later, we're going to do a sun salutation dance, which is just the absolute favorite. We're going to do it to a recording, but if you taught them the song, you could eventually just run it with them singing, which is super awesome. And then when you get into the warm-up, you generally introduce a theme. So a theme can be anything from rainforest, summer. You can do a theme around the rainbow or a theme around gratitude. I mean, really, your options are endless. When you are focusing on younger ages, maybe like under 8, you want to choose things that are a little bit more concrete, like the rainforest, the beach. I can imagine that. I know what it is. I know what a fish is. I know what an umbrella is. It's, you know, concrete. Where as they get older and intellectual development starts to grow, when they come to school, you can start bringing in more abstract concepts like confidence, gratitude, self-esteem, you know, and really explore those topics a bit further. You might even bring in some things around bullying or stress management, or, you know, weaving it into yoga, bringing it back to gratitude and journaling or mindfulness. So there's so many woven things in there, but I found that the younger ages just want to, I mean, most of the time the girls just want to be a butterfly or something. And so you just let them be a butterfly. So you'll introduce the theme to them and you present this theme in a way that this is the reality. We are physically at the beach and everything you do is not imagine you there, it's we are. All right. So when we speak about imagination, it's not about imagining it as such, it's about living it. And so we kind of have to shift our perspective that we are in that moment too, and roll from there. And this is where you start to weave in your breath work and your poses a bit more, because when we look at our poses like our warrior two, we start to go, okay, what else could this be? This could be a surfer, this could be someone skiing down a hill, this could be someone trying to balance on a boat, or I mean, you can actually make up anything that you think a pose could be. You could probably wing it and make it up as you go along, and give children that structure to show them how to do a pose, show them what the pose will look like, or, you know, give an example for them to copy, but also leaving room for them to see that each pose is different. Your pose looks a little bit different to that person's, and that's completely fine. And you might want to do it this way and they might want to do it that way, and that's also okay. So there's enough freedom in it to make it fun and playful. And then when you bring in those activities, you really get to explore the use of props. So blocks are super good way to go. Usually the foam ones, because they're not heavy, and when they fall all over the place, they don't make a noise. So blocks can be used like to balance on your head. They can be used as stepping stones. You can use them to build a tower like Jenga. The other props that we tend to use are more based in kids yoga. It's not something we get in adult yoga quite a bit. So one of my favorites is like affirmation cards, which we usually do at the end of class, which are you can get, I've got one, a free download online, but my friend makes them and it will say like, I'm a good friend, or I listen to my heart, or I trust my voice, or anything like that. That's kind of like an affirmation that they use as their message for the week. Really nice props are things like a singing bowl to start the class. So to get them into seated and to ring the singing bowl and say, okay, let's listen for 3 chimes. And then once they've done the 3, you're now in the yoga class. What are the other ones I use? And then your games are infinite. So I created this one game where I took a dice, and it was actually more like a little wooden, it was actually a box that a candle had come in. But then on each side, so all of the 6 sides, I printed out a picture of a pose, and then each child got the chance to roll the dice, and then they needed to do that pose. And then they needed to do it, and everyone needed to copy them. So each child gets a chance to play and engage in the game, and then everyone needs to copy them, and everyone gets their turn. So it gives you freedom to do yoga like a mirror game, or to do like a dice, or you can even just do like a memory game cards, and then you must choose or do that pose. So it's the idea that I want to say is like you can actually really create. That was weird. You can actually really do anything. And then the last aspect of it is more of your mindfulness. So you have then the option, once you've gone on your adventure, if you wanted to do something like journaling, you could have a gratitude jar where you write things in and put it in there. It really is, I mean, I could go on for hours with ideas, but one things I wanted to mention is something called a calm down jar, or it's like a glitter jar. I don't know if anyone's seen it before. You take, it's supposed to be a glass jar, but glass is obviously not a good idea. So I used to take like a little Valpre water bottle, and then those blue tinted ones, and then you fill it with some warm water, and then that white kind of like, not tonal blue, it's like like the clear. Sorry, I'm just...
Hey, baby. Is it too windy? Must we go inside?
That's so weird. It wouldn't let me mute it. There we go. So you put in some warm water, and then you put in Ponal glue, like the clear paper glue, and then you put in some glitter and then glitter glue. And then what happens is you fill it quite to the top, and then all the glitter sinks to the bottom. So you use it as a tool to help children like to calm down a bit. So when you're frustrated, you can shake the jar, and then you get all your frustrations into the jar. And then as you watch it, it's kind of like it's like a snow globe, and it's like mesmerizing, and the children will just stare at this, and it just calms their breath down and it relaxes them. And it's just such a nice thing to see. I've got one at home, and I would recommend. It's very useful to calm down. And also things like slime and fun things. So you really get to bring extra props into the class that makes it fun, and it lets children just be a little bit more engaged in it. So you can go onto things like Pinterest and type in like kids mindfulness games, mindfulness activities. Yoga cards always do well. As the more that we can use things in a class helpful, but you don't need them. They're not the be all and end all in order to teach a class. We know all you need is yourself and your body. You can sing, you can dance, you can do poses, you can have fun. So Zama, it's called a glitter jar. Some call it a calm down jar, but it's not even just used for yoga. So you can Google it and make it yourself at home. It's pretty simple. And I mean, what a teacher will do is they'll just create one for the class, and then children can all just lie on their tummy around and then shake it out and then just enjoy that. So there's, yeah, that's quite a fun thing. Any questions at this point? I feel like I've downloaded a lot of information. Yes, Celine.
Could you give us maybe some recommendations for books that we could buy on this?
To learn more about kids yoga?
Yeah, and just like ideas on like games or kinds of themes or how to do this.
Yeah, it's so tricky because I worked in pediatrics quite a bit. So a lot of the ideas I got were from what I would often do in OT, but Pinterest, like Pinterest is your best friend. But I found quite interestingly enough, I mean, I read a couple of books that were like the ABC yoga ABCs, or, you know, introduction to kids yoga. You get a lot of different books like that. But I actually found that I learned the most from Pinterest, from watching videos, and from kind of just making it up as I went along. Because I think although there is some structure in kids yoga, you have a foundation of poses. And so a lot of different kids yoga trainings focus on different things. Some will teach you poses, which you guys may know. Some will focus on the mindfulness. Some will bring in creativity. So the components of kids yoga trainings are somewhat very different. When it comes to themes, it's surprising how much you'll actually get on Google, to be honest, like kids yoga classes, kids yoga cards. And there used to be one, if I find it, I'll let you know. There's a couple of websites that give you free resources that have things like activity ideas that I would kind of opt for. And a friend of mine, well, this girl from Cami from Yogi Bears, we set up a course. And so we actually just got together and started brainstorming and like, oh, that would be cool. That would be nice. And then you pretty much create your own framework for it. But I can't say that I used a particular book, if I'm honest with you. You get a lot of YouTube videos. So Yogi Bears South Africa, Yogi Bears ZA, on Facebook. She's got a couple, especially for those who have kids, she's got a couple of classes on her Facebook page that she did in lockdown that were live. So we'll do a little class now, but you might want to just watch her classes because each teacher is very different. Some teachers will be a little bit more calm and compassionate and do the mindfulness, and then some are very high energy and fun, and she's one of those, and she's incredibly good with kids. So just as you'll find your voice as an adult teacher, you get to do the same kind of fun things with kids as well. But I would always just bring in that grounding, do a little bit of a warm up, really bring in the theme and the storytelling in the main bit, and then you got your cool down and a short shavasana. That's kind of that. And you're kind of aiming for like 30 minutes, like sometimes even 40 minutes is a little bit of a push, but you get to do other things like even some partner yoga is always quite fun because kids love that. Cool. Any other questions? Amazing. Okay. I'm very excited to get into our kids class. So I think let's do a practice and then let's chat about it some more and see how it goes. All right. So I'm going to ask you guys to sit up on your mat, grab, I didn't have a pillow. I've got this whale, which I thought was pretty applicable. Pillow, it can be a block, whatever the case may be. Just set yourself in a space where you can move. So I'm just trying to think what I would recommend. I would love for you guys to put your sound on for the reason, I mean, of course, if it's super noisy and you think it's going to be distracting, don't worry about it. I'm just going to give myself some light here. You guys can see my machine in the background. So I want you guys to try and be as interactive as possible. That being said, I also understand that you guys are at home and maybe alone, and so shouting and responding into a laptop might feel very odd. So that's also completely fine. But what I'm going to be doing a lot as a kids yoga teacher is I want to engage you in this conversation. So I'm going to ask questions and see how things are going. And my energy is going to be very high. But even if you don't give me that energy back, I also need to try and maintain it. It's not the same when you're in a studio with kids. The energy is high and it is infectious. So you naturally bring in that childlike essence, which is a little bit harder to tap into when you come into like an online setting. So let's set us up here. Just give me 2 minutes to organize my space. Make sure you guys can all see me. All right, are we all ready? Okay, got everything set. All right, so welcome guys. If this feels a bit odd, I'm gonna be quite over the top, but just because it gives you guys a little bit to work with. All right, I'm actually gonna put my screen so I can see you guys because I think that will be quite fun. All right, so welcome guys. My name is Taryn. For those who don't know me, I saw a wave there. Thank you so much. So today's yoga class is going to be a super fun adventure and I can't wait to share it with all of you guys. So what I need to make sure that you have, you're going to make your space quite wide as you can at home. If you don't have space, it's also fine. But I want you to see that you've got space to move and have fun. And then put your mat out on the floor. And what's super cool about our mat is that is our safe space. So our mat is where we get to move with. And because you guys aren't sharing your space with others, that's perfectly fine. In a studio, you would tell children that your mat is your safe space. And so you stay on your mat unless we do an activity otherwise. All right. And then what you guys are going to get with you is you're either going to have a block or a cushion or something that is going to be our super prop for today. And keep it super handy so that we can get it later. Okay. So let's get started sitting cross-legged on our mat. Good. So with your legs crossed, just put your hands on your knees and make your spine nice and tall. You can imagine that there's a string coming out of the head, pulling you all the way up. And then you just want to relax your shoulders. So you might give them a little bit of a shake and then let them relax all the way down. When you're sitting on your mat, close your eyes. Now I want you to feel that you're just sitting nice and comfortably. Take a nice full breath into your belly. Feel that your belly button goes far and big. And then breathe out. Good. Take one more full breath into your belly. And breath out. Now take your hands off your knees. Keep your eyes closed as much as you can. And put your fingertips on the floor next to you. And I want you to feel that you can just touch what the mat feels like. But keep your eyes closed and start to feel with your fingertips. Are your hands on your soft mat? Maybe they're touching the floor. Just feel what it feels like. And from your hands, you're going to draw a big circle as your arms reach all the way up to the ceiling, like you're drawing a big sun with the arms. And then your hands will go all the way back down, same path that it took on the way down, until your fingertips touch the soft mat again. Good. We're gonna do 3 more big sun breaths like that. Let's see if we can breathe deeper. Breathe your arms up. And breathe your arms down. Let's do 2 more. Arms reach up. Maybe this time you can try to touch the sky with your fingers. And arms down. Let's do 1 more. Reach your arms up. Imagine your fingertips are just touching the sky. And bring your hands all the way down. Hands come onto your knees again. Open your eyes. And I want you guys to show me just with your thumbs how you guys are feeling today. So if thumbs up means I'm super good, in the middle means I'm okay, and maybe thumbs down means I'm not so good today. So show me, you might have 1 up, 1 down. You can have 1 in the middle, 1 up, 1 in the middle, 1 down. Good. So if our thumbs up, we're going to hope that they stay there. If our thumbs are down, we're going to see at the end of the class if we can bring them all the way up again. Okay. So today's adventure, we are going to go to the beach. Have you guys been to the beach before? Maybe? Okay, cool. So when we go to the beach, we know that there's going to be such a sunny day. The blue skies are out for anyone in Cape Town. It's a little bit windy, but I think it'll be okay. So we're going to go on this adventure. But before we go, I need to make sure that we pack our bag. Okay. So I want you guys to take an imaginary bag. Just bring it with you because chances are you don't have a bag with you. Hold it out in front of you. You can relax your feet. It doesn't really matter. Can you guys tell me what we think we need to take to the beach? What do you think we need to take with us?
And
towel. A towel. Okay, I want you to reach all the way to the end of the room. See if you can grab a towel, put it into your bag quickly, quickly, all the way at the bottom. Nice. What else do we think we can bring with?
bathing suit.
Bathing suit. That's a good idea. Let's grab our bathing suit all the way on the other side, put it in your bag. Can we think of 2 more things we must take with us?
Sunscreen.
Sunscreen, that's a good one. Mum will be happy you said that. In the bag. And 1 more.
Snacks.
Snacks. Yum, I like that one. 1 more. All your snacks. Maybe you have 2 packets of snacks. That's all right. Put it into your bag. Make sure you put it all the way at the bottom. And I want you to imagine you zipping your bag closed. Good. And then swing it all the way around and put your bag on your back. Okay. Now just remember it's on your back. Okay, cool. Crossing your ankles, come up to standing. Are you guys ready to go to the beach with me? Nice. So have your back on your back, standing on your mat. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a game. It's called Robot, all right? So when I say green, you're going to go really fast. When I say orange, you're going to go medium. And then when I say red, you're going to stop. All right, and we're going to do this all to the march. So when we're going like this, we're doing like an orange march. We're doing it kind of slowly as we walk to the beach. And then as I say green, you're going to go really, 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 really quickly. Then you're going to run, 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 run. And then when I say red, you're going to stop. Okay, have you guys got that? Cool. All right, let's go walking to the beach just on an orange. Not on an orange, we're walking with a level orange. And green. Go fast, 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 fast. And then orange. Woo, I see some fast people in this room. All right, let's go red. Green. Red. Green. And orange. Woo, I need to see if I can catch you guys out here. You're a little bit smarter than me. Let's go green. Orange. Red. Green. Orange. Green. Green. And red. Woo! Are you guys feeling tired yet? All right, stand your feet. We're so close to the ocean. We're almost there. Stand your feet wide. I want you still got your backpack on your back. I want you to bring your hands onto your heart. And I want you to close your eyes and feel what's happening to your heart. Can you feel how your heart is beating into your hands? You can feel it's going a little bit faster than earlier. And what I want you to do is take a nice full breath in and a full breath out. One more full breath in and full breath out. Oh, can you feel how our heart rate goes a little bit slower when we breathe nice and deeply? Hey, cool. Do you guys still have your blocks or your pillows nearby? Ah, good. So you're gonna grab your pillow or your block, have it in both hands, all right? So we've got a little bit further to walk, and we're going to see if we can get there with a little bit more concentration. So we're gonna put our pillow or your block on your head. You might have to hold it. And we're going to see if we can do our last few marches to the beach, balancing our block on our head. Maybe you want to take baby steps. Maybe you want to take big steps. And you're just walking on the spot. Good job, guys. You're so good at balancing your block. Can you walk a little bit faster? Still balancing your block on your head? Nice. Good. And then slow it down. Reach your arms all the way up. Place your block off your head. And as you put it onto the floor, you can touch your floor, touch your toes. And we're already onto the beach. So you might feel that there's sand on the floor below you. And then roll all the way up to standing. Take a big loop of the shoulders. And welcome to the beach, guys. If you see all around you, there's a beautiful blue sky. The sun is shining. And we're going to have a lot of fun on the beach today. So now that we're outside, I've got a special song for us, which is all about saying hello to the sun. Do you guys know about sun salutations?
Yes.
Yes, good job. So this one's a little bit different. I'm going to play the song. Okay, there's another girl singing. I hope the sound comes through clearly. And you guys are going to follow along the song with me. I'm not going to sing it with you because we won't hear it with the sound. In person, I'd sing it. I'm going to do it with you on the mat so that if you ever get confused, you can just watch me. All right. So this is a special song called Dance for the Sun. And it's going to take us through our sun salutation. If you want to, you can repeat the first time she's going to say something and there's a little response that you can sing with, or you can just listen. All right, you guys ready? Can you hear it?
Sun salutation, dance for the sun. Sun salutation, dance for the sun. I can do it, you can do it. We can do a sun salutation. Sun salutation, dance for the sun.
She takes a while to get going.
Salutation, dance for the sun. Sun salutation, dance for the sun. I can do it, you can do it. We can do a sun salutation. Stretch up high, hang down low, tickle your toes, feet jump back, just like a frog, belly on the ground, just like a snake. Look at the sun, now up.
Good. Could you guys hear that one all right? Cool. So now we know the song a bit. We're going to do it one more time, but I think I'm going to say the words because then I think it's a little bit easier to hear because it's our first time. We can do it a bit slower. Okay. So using the same song of Dancing to the Sun, you're going to stand at the top of your mat, feet nice and flat, and we're going to say hello to the sun one more time. So you're going to reach your arms up, wave to the sun, and then hang down low. When you come forward, maybe tickle your toes. Good. Put your hands on your floor, take a big jump back, just like a frog. And then put your belly on the ground, just like a snake. Nice. Look up to the sun. And then downward facing dog. And we take 3 big breaths here. Nice, in through the nose. And breathe out through the mouth. Nice breath in. And breath out. One more breath in. Good. Look at the top of your mat. Take a little hop, just like a frog. Nice. Hang down low. Once again, tickle your toes. Arms reach up. And all the way back down. Good. Good. Now our bodies are nice and warm and loose. I think it's time we got to go feel the water. All right. Now it depends. Are we in Cape Town or are we in Durban? Because that determines how the water is going to be.
Cape Town.
Cape Town. Oh, no. Okay. We're in Cape Town. So I want you guys to stand all the way at the back of your mat. All right. So do you see that edge of the mat in front of you? That's where the water is. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift up high onto our tippy toes. And I want you to walk high onto your toes, just to the edge of the mat. And then we touch the water. Because it's Cape Town, it's so cold. I want you to run all the way back. Nice. Up onto your tippy toes. Maybe this time we can go a little bit further. Maybe you want to reach your arms up. Woo, it's still too cold all the way back. Nice. One more time. Up onto the toes. Can you walk all the way in? And then put your heels down on the floor. It's not so bad. But lucky for us, I see I've got a boat right next to me here. Do you guys have a boat there by you too?
Yes.
Good, good, because we all got a boat. I don't want to swim in the Cape Town weather, not today, the water. So I want you to hop into your boat. You've still got your backpack on your back. So take your backpack off, put it next to you, and let's come and sit in our boat pose. So in our boat pose, we've got our feet out in front of us. Backpack is on the side. Now, before we start boating, I think that there's something important we must do. What did we pack in our bag that we can use here? Not the snacks yet.
Sunscreen.
Cool. Let's quickly grab our sunscreen. And I want you to rub it into your hands. Make sure it's all over. Good. If you had real cream, you could definitely use it. And then you're going to just rub it onto your arms. My sunscreen smells like lemon. Good. Come all the way here, rubbing it around. And don't forget your feet. Nice. Good. Put it back into your bag. Grab your paddle. And we're going to go for rowing our boat. So just take nice little rows to the side. And as we start to row, I want you to look around. Look all the way to your left side. You see all the ocean. And you look over to your right side and you've got all the ocean. Good. Take 2 more paddles. As we're rowing, we see a crab. Can you guys tell me what a crab looks like? What color is a crab?
It's red.
It's red. Do you know how a crab walks? This is a tricky one. That's also how a crab walks. So a crab can walk like this. Can I show you another way how a crab can walk? You're going to put your hands back behind you like this. Feet on the floor, lift your bum up. And see if you can walk around like a crab. Where's your crab going? Oh, mine can't go that way. Walk all the way back. Nice. Walk all the way onto your boat. Woo, shake your arms out. Those crabs work really hard. And
That's
we're going
fun.
to get our oar again. And let's start to paddle. Nice. Let's see if we can make it a little bit harder. Can you lift one leg up? Ooh. Nice work, guys. Let's swap it out. Put your other leg up. Nice. Both legs down. Pause for a moment. I see another thing swimming in the water. What do you guys see in the water?
Dolphin.
Fish. I don't know what a dolphin will do, but you see, think on your feet. Let's be a fish first. We're gonna hop out on the boat. I want you to lie on your tummy. Good. Woo, lots of jumping up and down here. We're gonna have a nice relaxation in. Lie down on your tummy, put your arms forward, and we're gonna swim like a fish just for 5 times. You're gonna lift up and you're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and relax. Take a nice breath into your tummy, push your belly button into the floor, and relax. Good. Can we do it one more time? Swimming up, let's see who can swim fastest. Woo, you guys are all very fast. And relax down. Good. Let's take 3 big breaths into our tummy. See if you can almost lift your back off the mat by breathing so deep. And then out through the mouth. Good. 2 more. Nice breath in. And out. Last one, breath in. And out. Nice work. We've got one more animal to go see. So let's quickly go back into our boat. Now you can choose. If you feel your body needs to relax a little bit, you keep your feet on the floor. If you would like a little bit more of a challenge, we're going to drive or row our boat with both feet off the floor. Let's see if we can do it. So row your boat, lift your feet up. Woo, squeeze your knee in. Nice work, guys. This is really difficult. You can give them a rest if you need. And our last pose we see, put your feet down, is a beautiful starfish. So we're gonna make a star pose. So we're gonna have to jump onto our feet and make yourself the biggest star that you can find. So feet come wide, arms come out. Let's see how big our starfish are.
You can even do one on the floor.
You can do it on the floor, that's right. You can do it both ways. So what color is your guys' starfish today? Who's a yellow one?
Mine.
Ooh, we've got purple. Who's got a rainbow colored starfish?
Me.
All of the colors. Let's see if we can make ourselves a bit bigger. Can you lift up onto your tippy toes and stretch wider? Good. Nice. And then you're going to step your feet together and make yourself the smallest little ball. Imagine you're a tiny little shellfish, not a shellfish, a starfish, just wrapped up into a ball. And then from here, just one time, we're going to jump out into the biggest star. So when I count to 1, so you're going to go 3, 2, 1, biggest starfish. Woo! Those are some big ones. Nice work. Woo! Put your hands on your hips. I'm so tired from our adventure. What about you guys? How are you feeling?
Great.
You guys are still good. Let's hop back into our boat. We're going to go back to the beach. So back into our boat. Let's do our last. Maybe we go a little bit slower. You can look over to the one side. You can see what's happening on that side of the beach. And then maybe row again. And then look over to the other side. And slowly come off. Last one. And as we come up onto the beach, you can put your paddle down. And we're just going to climb off of our boat. You know what other animal I actually forgot about that we see on the beach a lot? What animals do you see that are actually land animals that we see on the beach with their owners?
Blue bottles.
Blue bottles. But blue bottles are like jellyfish, so they move like this. What is an animal that lives on land?
Dogs.
Dogs, yes. So we're going to quickly go into our dogs. So put your hands on the floor, lift your bottoms high. We're going to take our dog for a walk super slowly. So a nice slow walk. Good job. And then put your knees on the floor. We're going to come into a shell pose. So you're going to sit back, wrap your arms, and make yourself into a tiny little ball. And just close your eyes and then imagine that you can hear the sound of the ocean, just like you would hear in your in a normal shell. You want to imagine you can hear it also here. Let's take 3 more breaths. I'm going to come to you now. 3 more breaths, and then we're going to come into our breathing.
You can even hear the sea from your ears, like.
Yes, you can hear it. I wish I had a shell with us. We could have all listened to it together. That would have been amazing. Cool. Let's all come up into sitting. I want you to swing your legs around and then come into a butterfly pose. So when we do butterfly, the soles of the feet touch. Hands are going to be on the ankles, and we're going to fly our butterflies. We also see a lot of butterflies at the beach sometimes if we're lucky. Now, we've done a lot of moving today. We've gone on a cool adventure. We've seen cool things. We've done so many fun things with our bodies that now we're going to start to slow it down. And I'm going to teach you guys my favorite breathing technique that you can do anytime. You can do it at home. You can do it at school. You can do it anytime you want to relax. So how it goes, you guys can stay in your butterfly. I'm going to come closer. So this one is called bumblebee breath. So you're going to create like little Mickey Mouse ears with your hands, like that. And we're going to put our thumb, but you're not going to do it now because otherwise you won't hear me. Your thumb is going to go and into your ears and block your ears, but you don't have to push hard. You just got to block it a little bit. And then our fingertips are going to come over our eyes, kind of like we're making eyes like a bee. All right. Then we're going to do that. We're going to take a breath in through our nose, and you're going to breathe out with your lips closed like this. All right. So if you don't want to close your eyes, you can keep them open if you want to look at me, but I want you to notice what it sounds like. So have a look first. I block my ears. I cover my eyes. I take a breath in and then hum. Did you guys sound like a bee in there? Did it sound like a bee? I also had a bee. We're going to do one more because this time you guys know what it feels like. You can choose to stay still or you can fly your bee a little bit if you would like to. So let's block our ears. One big breath in and then relax your hands down, close your eyes. It kind of feels like there's a little buzz in my body, just like what that bee breath sounded like. Cool. And then all you're going to do is put your feet on the floor in front of you, roll all the way down and come to lie on your back. Now, I like that star idea on our back, so we're going to do it now. It's going to be lots of fun. So you're going to imagine that you're making like a snow angel, but in the sand. So you'll bring your legs wide and your arms wide and take up all the space. And then if you want to, if there's enough space, you can create little star angels by sliding your feet out and bringing them in. Out and in. Do it one more time, out. And last time in. Nice. And then let your body relax on the mat. Your feet are wide, your arms are relaxed, your eyes are closed. Now I want you to take a big last breath into your belly. Make your belly nice and big. And breath out. Good. Now, with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine that you are a fish in the sea. You can be any type of fish you want to be. You can even be a whale or a dolphin. You can even be a mermaid or a merman. And I want you to imagine everything that lives under the ocean with you. Notice how everything feels calm and relaxed. And start to notice what color you are or what color you're wearing. Maybe you can see all the plants and the flowers that live underneath the ocean. And I want you to also feel that you are swimming in the ocean, slowly and steadily. And you feel so comfortable and so safe. The water is so perfect and the sun is shining. And in that moment, you feel that your heart is so, so happy. And as your heart becomes happy, you start to feel that that happiness spreads into every part of the body, all the way into the fingertips and all the way into the toes. As it spreads to the fingers, start to give your fingers a little wiggle. Give your toes a little wiggle. And then take a big stretch up with the arms. Lift the arms up high, point the toes. And then bring your knees into your chest. Make yourself into a tiny little ball. And start to rock a little bit from side to side, just moving a little bit into the body. And you can choose. You can come onto your side, or you can roll up and down your spine, coming all the way up into sitting. And then just like we started the class, bring your fingertips on the mat and a nice big sun breath. So your arms come up and around. And breathing out, bring your hands down. Nice. Hands come onto your knees. Do you guys want to tell me what fish you were in the ocean?
I was a jellyfish.
A jellyfish? Oh, that one's fun. What about the others? Jellyfish is super cool.
I was a dolphin.
A dolphin? Awesome. It's so cool that we were all different fish, but we were all having so much fun. Cool. Well done, guys. You can give yourself a pat on the back, or you can hold your heart to say thank you to yourself for coming to do yoga today. And I'll give you guys all 5 minutes. If you want to just get a sip of water, go to the bathroom, and then in 5 minutes, we'll be back here to talk a little bit more. And thanks so much for the others that also joined us for our very special yoga class.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I forgot to ask, did anyone have the middle thumb? Is everyone up on the upper thumb now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. We got double thumbs up now. That's awesome. One up, one. Oh, that's okay. I'll see you guys in 5 minutes.
Namaste.
Okay. That was more fun than regular yoga. Yeah, but you can't do it for an hour. It takes a lot. Maybe you can't, but I can manage it. It was fun. You can do it. Ooh. I feel like it's been a long day. No, it is a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun. Definitely. I can't remember what time we started our break, but whenever you guys are back, I see a little couple coming in there. A different kind of fun though, you know, a little bit more freedom and playfulness. And I know it's interesting that you say that, because I think there's a lot of adults that would say, ooh, in fact, I've taught a kids yoga class at Retreat Yourself at the yoga festival, and I had so many moms and dads join because they just wanted, you know, not take it seriously. They just wanted to run around and have fun with their kids. So it's actually a very nice way to do that, to do yoga, but in a different way.
I know a couple of adults after a day at work that could do with a class like that to cheer up a bit.
Just, you need to shake it off. And the one thing about kids yoga is it's very much out of your head and into your body. So there's not much room to think about stuff because you're so busy doing things. And so you can imagine for children as well, it's getting them engaged in these things. What I did do is this one was a lot more on the energetic, adventurous, fun side. So you see there, I guess the more different classes you'll try, there is a spectrum. You can do more yoga in there and less running and jumping. It also really depends on the children that you're teaching, because you'll get a lot of children who might come in who I've taught a 10-year-old once who just said, I just want to do adult yoga. And that's what she wanted. So we did adult-ish yoga, but, you know, not worried about alignment and things like that. But she wanted to be a bit more grown up. And so you've got that. And some children will be super happy just sitting and listening. And then other children have so much more energy. So this is just to show you the range of it and how fun and adventurous it can get and how you can weave everything together into a theme. What was your guys' experience? How did that feel?
That was awesome. I absolutely loved it. But then I am an overgrown child a lot of the time. So yes.
Same here, Corinne.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't actually do it, but it was nice to watch the kids doing it and their reactions to it.
Yeah, that's perfect. And you know, it's not for everyone, like it's not for everyone as a teacher, but to see, this is the first time we actually had kiddies involved, to see how the kids engaged. You got, it's like, how incredible is that? You know, they're so responsive and so engaging, which was awesome. I think someone else wanted to say something, but we had a couple of talking at the same time.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed how we really brought in all of the senses. So like feeling your soft mat and really the imagination of it as well. It was fun, thanks.
And you see how, you know, we could have had so many more props in it. I mean, anytime you're using a prop, it comes with additional sensation. I mean, you saw with the sunscreen, you don't need to physically have cream or essential oil. The imagination, the rubbing of the skin is enough of senses that brings in some tactile. And so without feeling as though I'm forced to do a lot of sensory things, it actually just does it in a fun, natural thing. And the same, we'll chat about it in the yin yoga as well. We do it in yoga naturally. Feel the feet, feel the pressure of your feet on the floor, or feel the connection of your spine to the mat, or whatever the case may be, that somatic sensor that brings your awareness to something. Because the same with children is that you have quite fleeting awareness of such. So that and my attention's all over the place. If I can bring your awareness to that feeling just for 5 seconds, that's where your focus is. And then here and then there. So you can always bring that in various different ways.
I enjoyed the bonding experience actually. So I think I'll teach it just so that I have time to spend with her, because she's been complaining that yoga's taking up so much of my time.
Oh no, shame. She looks like she's a true yogi though. She's been doing it. I'll send you Zam, I'll send you the link of the classes on YouTube. You can just, you know, even to not teach it, to do it together, that's so much fun, because then there's, you know, you don't even have to teach, you can actually engage. I mean, either or is fine. But this song is called Dance for the Sun. I'll send you, I just played it off YouTube here. They've actually got a whole playlist if you guys want to copy it across or open it or something like that. There's so many resources. I love this one because I would teach this a couple of times, and then I would just go into the class, and then I would say arms up high, and they would say wave to the sun, and I'd say hang down low, and they'd say tickle your toes. So it becomes like a call and a response, that once again, singing, engaging, and memory. I mean, just in that song alone, there's so much planning and remembering. I mean, I've got to sing and listen and do the dance move. That's crazy. That's a lot. So it's those small little things that although the children we had absolutely nailed it, some of these things can be quite challenging for children, even just coordinating their body, like the swimming or the rowing. Some kids might still have to figure out, how do I do that? And so it gives them a space where it's all part of the fun without feeling like, oh, if you don't do it, you're not doing it right, kind of thing. And the others, how did that feel for you guys?
I think the non-judgmental thing is really important. Like I had to hold myself back to not tell my daughter, you know, put your legs up or whatever. She needed to feel as if she was doing it her way, and that's fine. Because she, I did take her to kids yoga a couple of years ago, and it was great. The teacher was fabulous, and like it was always sort of story bound, and then sometimes they did crafts in between, which she loved, or like partner stuff. And then she left, and then at the yoga studio they started sort of just making the kids do the yoga with the adults, and that completely ruined it for her. She did it twice and never wanted to go back because she felt as if she couldn't do anything, and she's got gross motor skill issues. And so it's really important for me to find a way. Like I loved the meditation at the end where she could imagine being a fish, and anything that makes her feel happy in her body, I love.
And that's interesting you say, if she was having some difficulties with any gross motor, it's like, it doesn't, if you play other sports, suddenly it's like you got to catch and throw, and if you don't do it, there's other people around. In yoga, I mean, why, it's kind of like that whole thing we spoke about the alignment, like, why do I need her to look like this shape? That's what, in her mind, that's what it looks like. And so if we give an example, you might find over time, she might eventually get the shape if there's some, like, she's still learning the poses and familiarizing herself with it. But it doesn't matter if she doesn't get it, because it's not about that. It's about feeling something in your body. As you're feeling something, it's okay. When there's a whole group of children, you'll find that almost naturally, they do sense like mimic each other and make sure that they're doing the right thing. But there's not that environment that's expected of them. And so if you as a teacher just reinforce that, then I think that's wonderful. I mean, you see now how different kids yoga is. When they go to an adult class, it's like, no, this is too hard, and it's interesting though, because when kids yoga, you can teach something like crow, because most of the time they're not really scared to fall or anything like that. I used to teach these two girls, I'll come to you now, Eva, who used to love doing half handstand, which means I'm doing a downward facing dog. Oh, I'm going to do this. I do a downward dog, and then they put their hands in front of mine, and they step their feet onto my lower back. So they're doing an L on my down dog. Have you guys seen what that looks like? You can imagine. Yeah. So they used to love doing that. And so we would just do that a lot. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is so much strength work. She's not even scared being upside down. And children, they don't hold themselves back. They're not super fearful. I mean, sometimes children are, but they're quite adventurous. So you can usually bring anything to the table. And then if other kids don't want to do it and just want to watch, it's also fine. So you have a lot to work with, which is cool. Eva.
Sorry, my internet keeps breaking up, but I was going to say this was incredible.
Oh,
I think it's an incredible amount of work, I have to say. Like, I give you the fact that I think it was Zama's daughter who says, I want to be a dolphin, and you just redirected her so quickly, and you said, actually, let's see how we can properly swim as a fish. Like you clearly have to think so much about these lessons. I think so much more than for the adults lessons, because the adults, you kind of know the structures, like it just seems so much easier. So I guess I had two questions for you. One was, why did you say at the beginning that you want their mats to be a safe space, I'm sorry, I can't remember the second one, but that was the main one that I was like, and then how long, I guess, do you prepare for these lessons? Because I think there just seems to be so much more work than anything else.
So I'll come to your question now. It is kind of like a lot of planning in the sense to be prepared, because as soon as you open up a question, a child could like pipe up with an idea. But if you have 10 kids, they could all come up with a different idea. So for me as a teacher, as a reflection, I would have been like, maybe don't offer that. Because I also didn't want to shut her down and be like, no, we're not doing a dolphin, because like, why not? So I would maybe word it in a way that said, oh, do you guys see that fish? Instead of what do you see in the ocean? So I would change my wording so that I could be more directive, that would work in my favor. But that being said, if a lot of people said a dolphin, I would have just came up with a pose. I would have done kneeling and done like a little jump, something that looked like a dolphin, something silly. But you kind of, as well as a teacher, you want to keep that structure that you say, oh, we're not going to do a dolphin now, but I think we should try a fish. And it's okay. You can acknowledge that they've come up with that idea, because you do also want to keep the flow of the class going. So you could have done it either way. So there is this, with the kids' classes, you do want to be prepared, because as soon as you stumble or hesitate, then they'll kind of go off on their own things sometimes, depending on the kids you have. So you want to keep that flow going. But it's okay if nothing goes to plan and you just have to wing it, because if you're in that zone with them and you can make it up, it's the same as when you teach your sequence for adults and you forget and you go, okay, let's just do a warrior 2. It's the same thing with kids. At least you've got your story, so you know where you're ending up. I know that I would have just gotten back on the boat and gone back to land. You know, if I had anything, I always had that as a backup. That was kind of my linking through. With regards to the mat in the beginning, I think I actually intended to say something else. So it's interesting that you picked up on that. So usually when we teach children in a studio, what happens is it's not so much a common thing, but sometimes children will play with their mat and then go on other people's mats. And so what we aim to say is like, your mat is your space. And this is like your magic mat is often what I would use. So I think I just said safe spaces, and like, this is your, kind of like you said, this is your safe space. This is my mat, my yoga. So you kind of bring it back to them. But you don't have to use the word safe as such, because it's not as if we're expecting them to feel unsafe. I would rather maybe in hindsight have used, you know, your mat is your special area, your magic area today. So don't play with your mat, or don't jump onto other kids' mats or something. It's more comes in a sense of setting a rule without it feeling like, oh, we've got rules. So when I would be in a class, I would actually encourage kids to say, I would ask, do you guys think we need any rules for our class? Children surprisingly create rules for themselves. They might say like, oh, don't talk when someone else is talking, or, you know, all the things that they learn in school, stay on your mat. And so that's kind of a nice boundary to set from the beginning. Otherwise they will, you know, if you don't set that structure that yoga is practiced on your mat, it might just create some opening for that. So
I just have a follow-up question. It's not necessarily kids yoga, but the reason I picked up on that is because I think it could be a good cue for if you're working with survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, to say yoga is your safe space, nothing's going to happen to you, kind of to calm them down, because they don't often feel the sense of safety in their space. And so when you said that, that was like kind of the first thing that popped into my mind. I mean, I don't know whether they use it or not, but I could imagine.
Have you guys learned a bit? Are you going to do some things with, might chat a bit about Penny, not really, but there is quite the development of trauma-informed yoga, which is particularly based around a more restorative, intuitive yoga practice, where you do look at the use of language, like, you know, the kind of wording you use when you cue, when you teach, what you wear, all of those kind of languages. So that wouldn't have, it's interesting that you picked up on it, because it would be something that you would explore in that. But even with trauma-informed yoga, it's quite an additional amount of training that needs to be done for that, in order to understand it and to have that counseling and that experience of sorts. So if you're interested in it, I think there's a couple of incredible online courses at the moment. I can't say I know enough about it. I've done 1 or 2 workshops in it very briefly, but even then, it does come down to the language. But generally when you're teaching kids class, I mean, we pick up on a couple of things because we're coming from this frame of reference. Children don't pick up on it as much. It's more just about making them feel comfortable. And surprisingly, they'll also, you know, they might say something if they are. I think I've even taught a class before where a boy just said, I don't want to do this. And I just said, that's fine. You don't have to do this. You can sit and watch if you want. Or would you like to do another pose instead? Or give an option, because we don't ever, I mean, just in general, we don't force anyone to do anything. Otherwise, they won't come to yoga. So also creating that space that you can decide. And if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. Especially when you start doing things like partner yoga poses or mirroring, or if you have to touch hands or something, just note that some kids might not want that, or they might not like going upside down, or they might not like touching certain things like, you know, slime. Some people love it, some might freak them out. So it's, we just, the general go is if they don't want to do it, that's fine. You just say it's cool. But yeah, it's interesting. Any other questions about the kids yoga? Who feels like they may be a little bit curious about it now? It's kind of hard to tackle it in 2 hours. I feel like there's so much more we can go into. Yes, Zani.
Oh no, I didn't want to say anything. I just said I'm interested.
Oh, you want to know more?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've always been looking for ways to help kids with maths. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but I've been thinking of ways of using music for maths and, you know, now yoga for maths, but it'll probably never happen. But I've just noticed that mathematics is such an emotional thing for most kids, that it's an emotional block rather than an ability block that prevents them from doing maths. But yeah, anyway, I was just thinking.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think, you know, as much as we still, when we're teaching kids yoga, we very much stick into our role. Like, yeah, we are teaching yoga. However, there's so many things that weave their way in that can be a part of yoga. You know, there's so many different aspects that we can bring into our practice that might make them feel more confident and comfortable. And that's actually what I love about affirmations. And I recently watched a class where every single time they got into a warrior pose, there was an affirmation with it. Have you guys seen that little boy walking to school? I think it was a little boy, had a little backpack and walking to school, and he's like, I am strong, I am brave. And he's walking to school and he's got like the biggest amount of motivations. And I thought, Jesus, how incredible is that? So in yoga classes, you can do a pose and say, can you say, I mean, a superhero class, for example, can you say, I am strong? Can you say, I'm brave? Can you say, I am clever? I am smart? And weave in that positive affirmation, because what we feel as adults, we sometimes feel negative, stressed. We're surrounded by a lot of media, you know, just if we notice we feel like that, children are absorbing the same information as us to a certain extent. They're also absorbing our energy around us. If we're stressed, children can take on that stress. They're incredibly observant and in tune. So if we know there's something particularly stressful happening at the moment, or something that we felt we are aware of, then it's nice to bring that in with the kids as well. That gives them tools to say, you know, this is kind of what's happening, but this is how I can cope, or this I can feel stronger, or, you know, it's just an extra tool. And as you guys said, us as adults, we need it too. So we can just affirm it at the same time and do the same kind of activities as them. Demi.
Also, you know, speaking about the maths being a traumatic experience, like for me, I have dyslexia, and just practicing yoga has helped me properly establish, you know, left and right. So I know if I was a child and I was put into a class where maybe it was specific for learning disabilities, obviously within scope, like I am a healing practitioner that can assist with that. So to blend something like that, could you also, you know, make a class specific for that to help build those neural pathways for finer motor skills, or, you know, the differentiation between left and right, which sounds so easy to most people, but I mean, I'm 24 and I still don't know. I can't just think about left and right. It's not it's like a philosophical thing. It's not a real concept for me. So I could imagine how, you know, right hand down, left leg up, that opposite action could really build for kids too.
So, I mean, 100% yes, because I think anything that brings it back to the body, that's body awareness, and everything stems from, it's kind of like, if we can do it in the body, if we can feel it and experience it, you know, that's kind of what helps as well with learning. It's not only just learning what's left and right, but can I feel it in my body? And I think yoga does that so beautifully. I think when it comes to, I mean, just particularly with regards to yoga and learning, like learning skills or learning disabilities. I think when it comes to kids yoga, it's quite even a fine line. It's kind of what we spoke about yesterday, like a physio doing yoga and calling it rehabilitation. And so even with children, even though I like am an occupational therapist, when I did OT, it was OT, and when I did yoga, it was yoga, and keeping that divide, for the reason being is that, parents sometimes bring the kids to yoga and say, oh, but this is going to help my child with this. And it might, but we don't want to promote or advocate that, because once again, it comes down to the diagnosis and treatment of it. But that being said, without necessarily saying this is yoga for, you might bring in the same, it doesn't change the components of a class. And you've got your own experiences that make it unique to you, that you can say, oh, what, this worked for me. I'd love to teach that. But I wouldn't necessarily promote it in that means. But you would be able to add your experience to say, well, this helps me, and these are the kind of activities I want to incorporate into kids yoga, and then just still present it in a yoga space. Because I think when it comes to, even when working with children, anything between the health and wellness versus health practitioner, because I know you also did psychology, it becomes such an interesting thing. And just also to maintain the expectation of parents to say, this is a yoga class, and we do work on things like body awareness, we incorporate lefts and rights, we make it fun, we work on body, we work on self-esteem and confidence, and it's non-judgmental. Those are all things that are related to our yoga practice that, sounds amazing. So yeah, just on the more, once again, just coming back to scope of practice, which I'm sure you would have done anyway. So, yeah. Awesome. Any other questions about kids yoga specifically? I'm tired.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So, have you ever had classes where the kids sort of grow up with you? That you've had to sort of make sure that they've been with you for years. So do they eventually learn the poses, or are you always just playing and then at some point they switch? How do you progress that? Kind of the question.
So I think the components of kids yoga, like the poses, you can teach the same pose to a 4-year-old as you can a 14-year-old. So the poses as such don't necessarily change as much. I think you make it more age appropriate in the manner in which it's presented. So the language you use and the kind of theme you are teaching. You don't want to make it too childish for someone who's like 10 or 11, where they kind of want to be a little bit more older or more adulty in that sense. So I haven't taught consistent yoga classes enough to see that year on year. Tried doing some regular classes at the beginning. Well, it would have been the beginning of this year, which wouldn't have worked out well as well. And I didn't get a lot of signups in here in the South Peninsula. And one of the things I realized was that children are so busy. Their schedules and extracurriculars, they are so busy. And parents are also busy. So the only time I really feel as though people can really invest in kids yoga, firstly, it's when the parents do yoga and they know the benefits. But either if you can get it into the school or at aftercare or at a studio where the parents are coming there anyway, it needs to be convenient. But I have a friend who's been teaching for the last 4 years, and she said she's had kids that stay with her for 4 years. So generally, kids yoga works on a per term basis. So you can pretty much mark it as the same as a ballet class or gymnastics or whatever the case may be. So children will pay per term. I think it's usually $5.50 or something per quarter, and then it depends where you offer it, but you'll have them straight after each other. So you'll do ages you'll have a Tuesday afternoon, and you will do 2:30 to 3 will be this age group, 3:15 to 4 will be this age group, and 4:30 to 5 will be this, or whatever the case may be. So you can plan it in a whole session. And so that also works if there are siblings that are coming and the parents obviously won't prefer, if they might fall into different age groups, but the parents prefer that they're in the same group for logistical reasons, then you can shuffle it around. But I think that's the way you'll get consistent and you'll get them to grow with you. And the kids will learn the poses quick. They're like sponges. They learn things very, very smoothly. They might need to be reminded what a pose looks like, but you also tend to do a lot more of the class with them in order to be engaged, and also because I think it's quite visual rather than just cues. So that's what I would definitely say is easiest, and to see, you know, what kind of connections you can get to offer kids yoga, because it's just hard in the sense that if you get schools that are open to it, that's incredible. I mean, that's amazing. It's definitely on its way there, but you also need to make it convenient. And a lot of the time children already have to do compulsory sports, and now yoga is an extra, and there's music and there's dance and there's homework and they do this, and whoo, I would have been exhausted if I was a child in 2020. But you definitely can get them to continue. In fact, that's amazing if they can. So, and also what I think what Zama said is a nice thing is to, if you don't get into regular classes, is I think even once I did a once-off at a school. So you might do a class the end of every term, and you do a class for the kids and you do a class for the teachers, or you do mom and kids yoga. So mom or dad, you know, parents and child, maybe you want to say between the ages of 5 and 8, just so that it gives you some range to work with. And you do a connection class, so you do partner yoga poses like back-to-back chair and double downward facing dog, and then you also just do back-to-back twists, and you bring in the partner classes with parents and child. And I think that's also a very fun way to make it applicable. So a friend of mine does a lot of classes at, I always say a friend of mine because she teaches kids yoga as like her full-time. And so she does a lot of markets, schools, fun days, all of those kind of options. You kind of have to be creative, just like as you will being a yoga teacher. Elena.
No, just when you say partner yoga, having kids around is really handy. I always get my daughter to sit on my back when I'm doing Paschimottanasana, because just that weight on is so nice. Like so yeah, definitely parent and kid yoga. It's really nice.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I think it's a nice adjustment to have. Yeah, you have to be creative, because I think as sometimes yoga can be serious, and I understand for us as practitioners, we might want a serious practice, but it's also really nice to have this silly, free-spirited, fun practice. And it serves different roles. It serves different objectives, and it depends on per person. Some of you guys might have found that extremely demanding and draining. And yeah, I think as a teacher, there's a lot of energy you need to give. And so you can leave the class feeling incredibly energized because you've just built yourself up and you're feeding off the energy of the kids. And you could also get home and just feel absolutely buggered, which is also fine. It's also fine. But yeah, lots of fun. Demi, was your hand still up from earlier, I think? Yeah, I think she had to go somewhere. Oh no, did you have another question? No. Okay, cool. Awesome, guys. If you ever have any other questions, I mean, we've done a little bit of prenatal or kids yoga, and then we'll do yin yoga next week. And I know this is kind of just a taster in the sense that you just get to see whether you are interested enough or not, but it's not quite enough to feel like you get a grasp on things. So at the end of the course, give yourself some time to try out the different styles and, you know, focus on your sequencing and all of those things. And then if you ever have any questions or you're looking for additional courses or resources, I'm always just trying to keep an eye out there, because sometimes it's not stuff in South Africa, but at the moment there's a lot of online resources. So we're super lucky that there are tons of different things. I know I just saw something the other day from Teen Yoga Foundation, which is actually in the UK, but they're hosting a donation-based kids teen yoga summit, I think from the 7th to the 13th, and they're getting a whole lot of speakers and classes, and that they offer like a teen yoga course, which we didn't tap on today. I would say that what we've focused on is more up to the ages of about 12. I think when you're working with teens, that's a whole nother thing. So from 13 to 18, they do a whole course on that. And so there's especially now at the moment, there's a lot of kind of like webinars and talks and summits and online things happening that are either donation based or affordable or free. And it's nice to use those opportunities to explore the different offerings and just kind of see what's out there, because there's a lot out there. Cool. Well, that's all from me today, guys. I'm happy to finish off here if there aren't any other questions. And I won't see you guys until next week, again, next week, Friday. But best of luck. I'm really looking forward to seeing all your sequences and your analyses. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, fun day tomorrow. Oh, look at it, cute. You can tell I'm a kids person. Look at it. Oh. Anyway, cheers, guys. Have a wonderful evening.